di jiwa kami.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Semarang.
Gemilang untuk Indonesia maju.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Semarang. Gemilang untuk Indonesia maju.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, our opening ceremony will begin shortly. There are several rules which you need to follow during the conference. Please keep your microphone off and turn on your camera. Please behave and dress appropriately during webinar. Please do not use the chat room as your personal water cooler. Link of attendees and certificate will be given anytime during webinar in each day, and certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The opening ceremony is about to begin. Please turn on your camera and keep your microphone mute. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th International Conference on Sports, Health, and Physical Education 2021. Transformation on Sports, Health, and Physical Education Facing the Global Pandemic, hosted by Faculty of Sports Science, Universitas Negeri Semarang. It's being a great honor for me, Billy Castiana, as your Master of Ceremony, to be here and welcome each and every one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, over the next 2 days, this webinar will provide you plenty of opportunities to discuss, share knowledge and insight in terms of sports, health, and physical education, especially on this pandemic era. Before we proceed the program today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Excellency the Minister of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Haji Zainuddin Amali, SAMSE. Excellency President of the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education, ICSSPE, from Berlin, Germany, Dr. Uri Schafer. Excellency Director of Universitas Negeri Semarang, Profesor Dr. Haji Fatur Rahman M.Hum. Excellency Vice Rectors, Directors, and Deans in Universitas Negeri Semarang. Excellency the delegation from ACPES, ICSSPE, the Ohio State University, United States, Bangkok Thonburi University, Thailand, and UPSI, Malaysia. We also would like to greet all of our speakers. Excellency Chairman Sport for All Committee of Indonesia, Mr. Hayono Isman. Excellency Assistant Professor Bob Feng Hua-sun, PhD, from Department of Health and Physical Education, the Education University of Hong Kong, Hong Kong. Excellency the President of ASEAN Council on Physical Education and Sport, Associate Professor Koh Kun Tek, PhD, from PESSNIE, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Excellency Professor Jun Ho Kang from Seoul National University, the Republic of Korea. Excellency Director of the Learning to Teach Physical Education Research Program, Department of Human Science, College of Education and Human Ecology, The Ohio State University, United States, Professor Philip Ward, PhD. Excellency Associate Professor Mahalul Azam, MD, MPH, and Assistant Professor Doni Kusuma Wirayuda, PhD, from Universitas Negeri Semarang, Indonesia. The last but not least, honorable committees and distinguished guests. Welcome to the 5th International Conference on Physical Education, Sport, and Health 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin our opening ceremony with National Anthem of the Republic of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. We would like to invite all guests to stand up. Thank you and please be seated. Anthem of Universitas Negeri Semarang.
Universitas Negeri Semarang di tengah derap pembangunan, mendidik putra bangsa menjadi cenderia untuk Indonesia bercinta, berwawasan nilai konservasi, bereputasi internasional, melimpah berkat rahmat. Semoga ia selalu jaya. Universitas Negeri Semarang menjulang setinggi angkasa, membangun insan yang akademis, berkarakter sehat dan daya guna. Berlandas
For the first agenda, we would like to give our screen to the Chief of Committee to give the report. For Assistant Professor Dr. Hadi SPD MPD, the screen is yours.
Thanks. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, This Excellency, the Minister of Youth and Sport, Dr. Haji Zainuddin Amali, MSI, Rector of Universitas Negeri Semarang, Profesor Dr. Fatur Rahman M.Hum, Vice Rector, Director, and Dean in Universitas Negeri Semarang. Also special gratitude to the distinguished speaker, Dr. Uri Schaefer, President of the International Council of Sport Science and Physical Education, Berlin, Germany. The Honorable invited speaker, Mr. Haryono Isman, Chairman Sport for All Committee of Indonesia. Assistant Prof. Bob Fenghua, San PhD, Department of Health and Physical Education, the Education University of Hong Kong. Asok Professor Koh Kontek, PhD, President ASPES from PESA, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Professor Chun Hukang, Seoul National University, South Korea. Asok Prof. Bahlul Azam, MD, MPH, Universitas Negeri Semarang, Indonesia. Asisten Profesor Doni Kusuma Wirayuda, PhD, Universitas Negeri Semarang, Indonesia. Prof. Philip Watt, PhD, Director of the Learning to Teach Physical Education Research Program, Department of Human Science, College of Education and Human Ecology, The Ohio State University, USA. Further, I also would like to welcome two guests of honor. ASPES member from 11 universities in Southeast Asia, Cormi delegation from the Ohio State University, Bangkok Tumri University, and UPSI, UETM, and International Reviewer of ISMINA. Special welcome to all presenter, participant, and committee. First of all, let us pray and thanks to the Almighty who has been giving us a lot of mercies and blessing to stay healthy in this difficult pandemic situation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 50th ISMINA International Conference, in which I am Mr. Hadi, is very honored and privileged to welcome you. As this international conference brings together academic, expert, and practitioners from Southeast Asia and beyond to share new knowledge, ideas, and experience pertaining to sport, health, and physical education. This event is just a part of the 56th University Negeri Semarang inauguration. This conference is attended by over 500 registered participants from Taiwan, Philippines, Turkey, Malaysia, Pakistan, USA, Thailand, Ukraine, India, Mongolia, Korea, Bhutan, and Fuji. Of 113 paper will be presented in parallel session. The paper will be published in EUDL proceeding, and some select paper will be submitted for publication in reputable national and international journal. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy the conference and may you bring fruitful knowledge from joining this special event. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Excellencies, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we would like to give our screen to the Dean of Faculty of Sports Science to deliver her welcoming speech. For Professor Dr. Tandio Rahayu, MPD, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Billy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, let us pray and thanks unto the Almighty, who has been giving us lots of mercies and blessings. I hope everyone always in good health. Further, on the behalf of the Faculty of Sport Science, Universitas Negeri Semarang, I would like to welcome the Honorable Dr. Haji Zainuddin Amali, MSI, Minister of Youth and Sport, Republic of Indonesia. Dr. Uri Schaefer, President of the International Council of Sport Science and Physical Education, or ICSSPE, Berlin, Germany. Professor Kokuntek, PhD, President of Asian Council of Physical Education and Sport, or ACPES, from PESS and IE NTU, Singapore. Mr. Haryono Isman, Chairman of Sport for All Committee in Indonesia. And Professor Dr. Fatur Rahman, Rector of Universitas Negeri Semarang, that we are proud of, along with Professor Zainuri, Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Professor Martono, Vice Rector for General Administration and Finance Affairs, Professor Abdurrahman, Vice Rector for Student Affairs, Professor Hendi Pratama, Vice Rector for Planning and Partnership, all deans, Director of Postgraduate Program, and Head of Institution at Universitas Negeri Semarang. Distinguished speakers who have been willing to spend their valuable times to meet our invitation. Professor Bob Feng Hua Sun, PhD, from Education University, Hong Kong. Professor Jun Ho Kang, PhD, from Seoul National University, South Korea. Professor Philip Ward, PhD, from Ohio State University, United States of America. Professor Dr. Mahalul Azam from Universitas Negeri Semarang, and Professor Doni Kusuma Wirayuda, PhD, from Universitas Negeri Semarang. Our guest of honor, Professor Suprani Kwan Buntan from Srinakarin University, Thailand. Professor Rebecca Alquiza from IIT MSU, Philippines. Professor Gunatevan Elumalai from UPSI, Malaysia. Professor Jane Nguyen Tragiang from Bangkok Thonburi University, Thailand, and all the seminar participants. Welcome to our virtual meeting room to join the 5th International Seminar on Sport, Health, and Physical Education 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, this seminar is a biennial agenda, conducted every 2 years by the Faculty of Sport Science, Universitas Negeri Semarang, expected to be the meeting points of students, academicians, practitioners, sport and health communities among Southeast Asian countries and beyond, in the hope of friendship, mutual understanding, and exchange in many fields to improve the quality of services in the field of physical education, health, and sport, especially in this difficult time where we all have to adapt and transform to face the challenges of pandemic to survive in the new normal era. Ladies and gentlemen, this seminar can be held with the full support of our rector in Universitas Negeri Semarang, the Ministry of Youth and Sport of Republik Indonesia, ICSSPE, and ACPES as our patron. Thank you very much for all your support. Thank you to the organizing committee who worked very hard to organize this seminar. Guys, you make me be a very proud dean this morning. Finally, I would like to apologize for any imperfection during this event. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Tandio Rahayu, for the welcoming speech. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to listen to the opening speech delivered by the Rector of Universitas Negeri Semarang. And afterward, we would like to request the Rector to officially open the 5th International Conference on Sports, Health, and Physical Education 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Haji Fatur Rahman M.Hum.
Okay, thank you. Good speech, Prof. Tandio. Assalamualaikum
Thank you, sir.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Selamat pagi, semangat pagi. Semoga berkah melimpah pada kita semuanya yang hadir pada acara yang luar biasa. Good morning for everyone. I will share the presentation for opening this seminar. The Honorable Dr. Zainuddin Amali, Minister of Youth and Sports, Republik Indonesia, Dr. Uri Skafer, President of the International Council of Sport Science and Physical Education, Berlin, Germany, Mr. Haryono Isman, Chairman Sport for All Committee of Indonesia, Assistant Professor Bob Feng Hua, Sun, PhD, Department of Health and Physical Education, the Education University of Hong Kong, Professor John Hukang, Seoul National University, South Korea, Associate Professor Mahalul Azam, MD, MPH, Universitas Negeri Semarang, Indonesia, Associate Professor Doni Kusuma Wirayuda, PhD, Universitas Negeri Semarang, Profesor Philip Watt, PhD, Director of the Learning to Teach Physical Education Research Program, Department of Human Science, College of Education and Human Ecology, the Ohio State University, USA, all of the management, especially the Dean, Professor Tandio Rahayu, moderator, official, and all participants in this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate for this seminar. This 5 ISMINA bring us to discuss, to analyze, and problem that will be faced in the global change, especially to those that occur in the world health physical education, sport, science, and sport coaching. Thus, ISMINA definitely support the vision of UNES to be a conservation-oriented university with international reputation. It is also in line with our spirit, a house of knowledge, which develop civilization, which mean the greatness of this place relies on your hand. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of academic field in UNES is designed according to tradition achievement for having achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Green Campus UI Green Matrix, UNES got the sixth rank in the national level and 66th rank in the international level. It is so that UNES has a commitment to reach its vision as a conservation-oriented university. As international reputation, four departments of UNES reached international certification. They are Indonesian Education Department from Faculty of Language and Arts, Biology from Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Physical Education from Faculty of Sports Science. This faculty, let's give applause for FIK. Economic Development from Faculty of Economic, and effort to develop the values of academic reputation of the millennial generation are important to be done. One is strengthening the rising achievement through publication which indexed by Scopus. These five instruments must contribute for increasing the number of its publication. Ladies and gentlemen, promoting UNES in this rank definitely introduce who we are. Today we are happy having 2 stars rating by GS star rating system, but we are never stop gaining to be higher level. We also contribute as the best values of budget works in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, within these 10 years continuously, UNES got the achievement as corruption-free area of clean and serving bureaucratic area integrity zone at university level. This year, 2021, UNES being the second rank in Indonesia for accepting SNMPTN or National Higher Education Students Intakes, and the fourth rank of the most number of SNMPTN 2021 enthusiasts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the student achievement in 2020. We are so proud having students who had learned hard and reached those achievements in this pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this 5 ISMINA is transformation on sport, health, and physical education facing the global pandemic. This theme was designed by Faculty of Sports Science with overshadow the field of sport, health, and physical education. It is expected to be an innovation center mainly the transformation of sport during the COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, all activities that we previously offline and create as many crowds as possible can be converted into activities that are carried out online or through online media, including sport activities. Today, pandemic has transformed the sport activities in myriad ways. Digital technology is unlocking unprecedented opportunities for sport growth. With many multi-billion dollar students now sitting empty. And organized public for this is by make with the sport. It is clear this sport is designed for physical interaction, both for athletics or fans in Paris, visual runs, a bike competition, pencaksilat, review online competition, and competition. Picture, visual golf, driving ranks, and martial. Of course, this drives sport industry and sport organizations treating getting a new perception and opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some student achievements from Faculty of Sport. These the facts our students have really passing the transformation of sport, health, and physical education in the global pandemic. Of course, those are in line with this ISMINA, which going to develop, strengthen, improve, and empathy and understanding of birth and sport by doing exercise or workout during pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, which it is expected that ISMINA can produce significant and valuable ideas and also present the fullest possible contribution and collaboration to the education system both in Indonesia and the world. Also, the partners, especially executive stakeholders in the industry who are involved directly or indirectly, such as academic, industrial, consumers, and policy markers can work together with UNES to exchange information so the formulation can be obtained as a contribution in trying the global challenges ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, with this remark, I declare the fifth ISMINA International Conference on Sport, Health, and Physical Education officially open. Enjoy the conference and thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, the moderator.
Thank you very much for Professor Dr. Fatur Rahman M. Hum for officially open this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the agendas we have presented to you this morning. For guests of honor, if you have other agenda, you may leave the room. Continue our agenda, we would like to give announcement regarding link of attendance. Kindly remind you if the link for attendance will be shared anytime during the session, and certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of conference. And we also would like to remind you, please do not forget to subscribe and give your thumbs up in our YouTube channel. And you may check and also watch our conference live on YouTube in FIK UNNES Semarang Official. Ladies and gentlemen, right now we are waiting for the Minister of Youth and Sport of the Republic of Indonesia. Please be patient. And right now we are going to play the video of Universitas Negeri Semarang.
Akan ada masa di mana kita menjalin rasa manusia dengan semesta. Mendaki ke puncak tertinggi, menggapai tujuan dengan kerja keras dan strategi. Perjalanan mengajarkan banyak arti dalam setiap langkah yang terlewati. Bercerita lewat asa untuk terus dijaga.
Manusia sejatinya berencana, menata cita-cita dalam bingkai rencana. Percaya bahwa keindahan tercipta bukan instan, melainkan lewat prinsip dan pedoman. Kreativitas dan imajinasi saling berkolaborasi, mengasah naluri, menjamah potensi. Tak akan bertemu ujung untuk apa yang kami kejar. Tak akan tercipta rasa tanpa belajar. Apa yang kami lakukan berawal dari sebuah ilmu yang kami emban di rumah peradaban, Universitas Negeri Semarang.
Kemajuan kita sebagai bangsa
seperti mempertajam kecerdasan, memperkukuh kemauan, dan memperhalus perasaan.
Pendidikan adalah senjata paling ampuh untuk mengubah dunia, termasuk Indonesia. Berangkat dari mana? ya dari diri kita sendiri.
Inilah rumah ilmu pengembang peradaban, tempat tunas penuh talenta tumbuh bermekaran dalam kasih sepenuh hati, bertumbuh menemu arti. UNNES Gemilang untuk Indonesia Maju.
Kegemilangan memandu UNNES dalam melahirkan generasi berkarakter dan berprestasi, agar tunas muda Indonesia bertumbuh, menemukan peran dan makna demi kejayaan Indonesia dalam peradaban dunia.
Setia mengawal semangat perubahan demi kemajuan bangsa dan peradaban. Sebab kami percaya niat baik saja tak cukup. Denyut inovasi harus terus berdegup. Arum luhuring pawiyatan ing astoniro. Semangat ini berdiam di hati, terpatri di jiwa kami.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Semarang.
Gemilang untuk Indonesia Maju.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Semarang. Gemilang untuk Indonesia Maju. Arum luhuring pawiyatan ing astoniro. Harum dan luhurnya lembaga ini tergantung pada tangan-tangan kita semuanya. Kami memberikan layanan terbaik dalam tridharma perguruan tinggi agar dapat menghasilkan insan akademik yang cerdas dan berkarakter konservasi. Kami terus melakukan inovasi agar UNNES terus menjulang tinggi dengan semangat UNNES mendunia untuk Indonesia.
Berwawasan konservasi.
Bereputasi internasional.
Rumah ilmu pengembang peradaban.
Mendunia untuk Indonesia.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, do not forget to like, subscribe, and give your thumbs up to our YouTube channel, because this conference will also live streaming on our YouTube channel in FIK UNNES Semarang Official. And also, I would like to remind you if the link for attendance will be shared anytime during the session, and certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of conference. And also, I would like to remind you if we have several rules which you need to follow during the conference. First, please keep your microphone off and turn on your camera. Please behave and dress appropriately during webinar. Please do not use the chat room as your personal water cooler. And link of attendees and certificate will be given anytime during webinar in each day. And certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of webinar. while we are still waiting for the Minister of Youth and Sport, we are going to watch the video of Central Java Province. My honor to become your master of ceremony and also your moderator for today, because in this special day in our Ramadan, we have a very amazing day and very amazing opportunity to share and also to have an insight and new knowledge in sports, health, and physical education, especially in our pandemic era. Also, we would like to say thank you to our guests and also our speakers, Mr. Hayono Isman, the Chairman, Sport for All Committee of Indonesia, Assistant Professor Bep Feng Huasun, PhD from Department of Health and Physical Education, the Education University of Hong Kong, the President of ASEAN Council on Physical Education and Sports, Associate Professor Koh Kun Tek, PhD, from PESS NIE, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Professor Jun Ho Kang from Seoul National University, Republic of Korea, Director of the Learning to Teach Physical Education Research Program, Department of Human Science, College of Education and Human Ecology, The Ohio State University, United States, Professor Philip Ward, PhD. We also would like to have a warm welcome to the delegation of ACPES, ICSSPE, The Ohio State University, United States, Bangkok Thonburi University, Thailand, UPSI, Malaysia, and all the participants and speakers of the day. We also would like to say thank you for the support from all the vice rectors, all the directors of Universitas Negeri Semarang, and the deans in Universitas Negeri Semarang. And we also would like to welcome all the presenters that will present during the panel session. Once again, we will watch the video of Central Java Province. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to remind you if the link for attendance will be shared anytime during the session and certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of conference. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give thumbs up for our YouTube channel in FIK UNNES Semarang Official because this conference also live streaming on our YouTube channel. We have a lot of speakers that will give a lot of sharings, that will share and deliver their speech. From our Minister of Youth and Sports, from the ICSSPE, and much more again. We also would like to say thank you for the support from the Minister of Youth and Sport of the Republic of Indonesia, from the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education, Chairman, from the Rector of Universitas Negeri Semarang, Vice Rectors, Directors, and all Deans in Universitas Negeri Semarang. We also would like to thank you and warm welcome to the delegation from ACPES, ICSSPE, the Ohio State University, United States, Bangkok Thonburi University, and UPSI, Malaysia. We also would like to say thank you for all the speakers who already give their precious time for Mr. Hayono Isman, the Chairman, Sport for All Committee of Indonesia, Assistant Professor Bob Feng Hua-sun, PhD from Department of Health and Physical Education, the Education University of Hong Kong. From Singapore, the President of ASEAN Council on Physical Education and Sport, Associate Professor Koh Kun Teck, PhD. Professor Jun Ho Kang from Seoul National University, Republic of Korea. The Director of the Learning to Teach Physical Education Research Program, Department of Human Science, College of Education and Human Ecology, the Ohio State University, United States, Professor Philip Ward, PhD. We also would like to welcome all the presenters and speakers that already prepared their presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my deep pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, who will deliver a keynote speech with topic the revival of Indonesian sport at the age of pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Minister of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Haji Zainuddin Amali, SA, MSc.
Nggak usah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let us pray and thank the Limit who has been giving us lots of merits and blessing to stay healthy in this challenging pandemic situation. Secondly, I would like to give my warm regard to Rector of Universitas Negeri Semarang, Profesor Dr. Fatur Rahman M. Hum, and the Dean of the Faculty of Sports Science, Professor Dr. Tandi Rahayu MPD. Also special gratitude to distinguished speakers, Dr. Uri Saper, President of the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education, Berlin, Germany, and invited speakers, Mr. Hayono Isman, Chairman of Sport for All Committee of Indonesia, Associate Professor Koh Kontek, PhD, President of ASEAN Council of Physical Education and Sport from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, Assistant Professor Bob Pinginsan, PhD, Department of Health and Physical Education, the Education University of Hong Kong, Professor Yu Ho Kang, Seoul National University, South Korea, Professor Philip Watt, PhD, Director of the Learning to Teach Physical Education Research Program, Department of Human Science, College of Education and Human Ecology, The Ohio State University, USA, Associate Professor Mahalul Azam, Universitas Negeri Semarang, Indonesia, Assistant Professor Doni Kusuma Wirayuda, PhD, Universitas Negeri Semarang, Indonesia, and further, I would like to send my sincere wish to the Honorable Head of the institution in Universitas Negeri Semarang, the guests of honor, and all the fifth ISMINA conference present and participant. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud to be part of this event. This international conference brings together academic experts and practitioners from Southeast Asia and beyond to share new knowledge, ideas, and experience about sport, health, and physical education. This valuable opportunity allowed me to deliver a speech on the revival of Indonesian sport at the age of a pandemic. In 2020, Indonesian sport health also feel the impact of the global pandemic situation due to COVID-19. Some of them can be mentioned as follows: postponement of multi-event national championship, usually called Pekan Olahraga Nasional or PON, and Paris International Championship, including the Tokyo Olympic Games. Athletes prepare and programmed to reach their peak performance of the 2020 championship. We forced to reschedule their training program and keep trying to train, so their fitness level remain maintained during the stay-at-home policy. The sport industry is also affected by this situation. Football, volleyball, basketball, and badminton competition we forced to stop. Players and match organizers lost their income. Sport channels in electronic media have also begun to lose new content and resulted in advertised loss. Loss of gym, stadium, swimming pool, dance stadium, fitness center, physiotherapy center, parks, playground, and so on, making many workers in this field lost their jobs. In early 2020, the Indonesia Ministry of Youth and Sport Policy were directed to supporting efforts to handle and recover the condition of the COVID-19 pandemic. Some steps that have been implemented, such as increasing youth participation to preventing COVID-19 pandemic, encourage community participation in sport activity to boost immunity, maintain situationable effort to level up sport achievement at the regional and international level, and make some adjustment to the agenda of the National Training Center. The Ministry of Youth and Sport of the Republic of Indonesia has set the year 2021 is the right time to recover and revive sport in Indonesia. Several things that can be used as reasons for this policy are the spread of COVID-19 globally look to have been systematically controlled. All national and provincial athletes, coaches and officials, and sport stakeholders throughout Indonesia have received the vaccine, furthermore, since September 2020. The Minister of Youth and Sport has begun Olympic national sport grand design and ready to be implemented in 2021. Therefore, in 2021, several online and offline competitions have been held with strict health protocol, including limiting spectacular attendance in the stadium. At the celebration of National Sport Day 2020, the Minister of Sport and the Minister of Youth and Sports has also declared the development of Indonesian sport is centrally focused on sport science, sport industry, and sport tourism. Therefore, to revive the existence of sport in Indonesia, these three focus will be the main priority area if dedicating priority to sport science development will significantly impact their sport development levels, sport for all, sport education, and sport performance by implementing sport science in sport development, the design for sport of all. Education, sport practice, and elite sport training can be carried out in a structured, measurable, and accountable manner. Ladies and gentlemen, since March 2021, Indonesia has started holding football competition, the strategy implementing health protocol and spectator resistance apart from football players on the official team and match officials are allowed in the stadium. The central and provincial government have also decided to hold a quadrennial multi-event championship, namely PON, or Pekan Olahraga Nasional, in October 2021. All preparations have been made, and I hope that all sport activity and competition could return soon. Throughout this international seminar, sport and health academician and observer and sport issue can share experience and knowledge to formulate valuable suggestions for global sport in the post-pandemic era. I hope that Indonesia Sport Academy attending this event can provide input to government so that sport in Indonesia can be immediately revived. Finally, I congratulate all of you on joining the seminar. I hope it will be helpful to Indonesian sport development. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for Dr. Haji Zainuddin Amali SAMSE for the keynote speech. We are now continuing our meeting to the next agenda, that is to hear the keynote speech, which will be delivered by the President of the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education from Berlin, Germany. For Dr. Uri Schafer, screen is yours. Dr. Uri Schafer, please turn on your microphone because your microphone is still mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's wonderful. Good morning, everyone. Salam alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Honorable Dr.
Waalaikumsalam.
Amali, MSI, Minister of Youth and Sports, Republic of Indonesia. Distinguished Professor Dr. Fatu Rukman, M.Hum, Rector of the Universitas Negeri Semarang. Members of the organizing committee, you all have done a wonderful job. Congratulations. Dear distinguished presenters, colleagues, and last but not least, dear participants from all over. I also would like to take this opportunity and pay tribute to the University of Negeri Semarang for all your accomplishments and achievements. You have done a great job throughout the years, and we at the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education appreciate you so much. Wonderful that you are doing so many things for the benefits on mankind, for mankind. In my presentation, I will try to share with you recent research findings on this important subject, which has had the impact on our life. I have to admit, we all are suffering and we all are facing a very, very unusual era. We didn't expect that to happen to us, no matter where we are. So I will try to share with you what have we learned so far from the pandemic vis-a-vis the physical activity and sport. And we have to be aware that even though we were suffering from the pandemic already for a year, it seems that it will continue to follow our lives and will accompany us during this coming year, 2021, hoping that we will beat this pandemic before 2022. So I will try to share with you some knowledge that we gained about physical activity patterns during the pandemic, responses from science, education, and policy. Since science, education, and policy are the three domains of the International Council of Physical Education and Sport Science. COVID-19 scientific responses. The impact of COVID-19 on motoric behavior and physical fitness. Impact of COVID-19 and associated lockdown on physical health is still under research. More studies are conducted which analyze the physical activity and sporting behavior of children and adolescents. And some findings contradict each other. This could be because of different research methods, different samples, picking up different age groups, different origins of data, the timing of the respective research during the lockdown, and different usage of terminology. So we still are learning about this phenomenon. Impact of motoric behavior and physical fitness, areas of analysis. Daily physical activity, physical education, what happened in the schools, how children face levels of inactivity during the pandemic or less opportunities to be active, organized sport in clubs, active transportation, or to a great extent during the lockdown, inactive possibility to be moving from one place to another, and others. My data are collected from a variety of recent researches conducted in Europe, in America, and I think I will be able to bring you an overall idea of what the first recent findings are teaching us about the consequences of the pandemic. The first study that I would like to relate to is about how Germans changed their behavior at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sport activity was found to decrease during this first lockdown. Number of inactive people increased from 40% to close to 60%. Unbelievable. 27% of the people did as much sport as prior to the pandemic, which is very interesting. And even about 6% have reported that they increased their weekly sport activity. So we can already sum it up by saying that over 1/3 of the people in Germany that were actually participating in the research reported that they have keep their physical activity routine, and to some extent have even increased it. However, we have to pay attention to the fact that 60% of the people were inactive. 36% of the 14 to 29 years old reduced their sport activity during the lockdown. And approximately 52% of the elderly were more inactive than before, which actually is a wonderful finding. Given the knowledge of the benefits of physical education, authors of the study concluded that the longer restrictions for sport last, the more likely the negative impact on well-being and health is going to be. And we as physical education teachers and coaches, experts, researchers, understand that, isn't it? The less you're active, the more you should be expecting some health problems to occur. The second study was conducted nationwide parent survey on homeschooling during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the findings show us about physical education that one of the subjects for which primary and secondary school teachers gave the least amount of homework. And we have to ask ourselves, why does that happen? Why is it always obvious, right, that physical education teachers do not give homework to their students? I think we have to change this attitude. I believe if we give some homework, physical activity homework, to our children, I think we might see a change in the positive direction. Since organized sport in clubs was not possible either, one can conclude that children were much less physically active during the lockdown than before. The third study is about physical activity and screen time of children and adolescents before and during the COVID-19 lockdown in Germany. We heard already the rector presentation, and we learned about the significant usage of the digital opportunities for children, youth, and adults in general, and during the COVID-19 in particular. Well, in this study, it was found that sport activities, for example, in the sport clubs, decreased during the pandemic. Other forms of physical activity increased. For example, practicing yoga at home or doing all kinds of different physical activities at home. In total, physical activity increased across genders and age groups. And interestingly enough, as I've said earlier, screen time increased within all age groups. And this makes sense. The fourth study about early effects on the COVID-19 pandemic on physical activity and sedentary behavior in children living in the USA tells us the following. Physical activity of children decreased during the lockdown. We find these findings once and again. Physical activity among children between 9 to 13 years decreased more than among younger children 5 to 8 years. And we, I think, can understand that figure, these findings, because we know that little children are always running, are always active. They don't take a break. They are so active everywhere. We are running after them all over the apartment, and we are tired before they are tired. When the children grow up, they are less active. And that's why I think this finding makes sense to us. 36% of the parents claimed that their children were less active over the past 7 days as opposed to before the pandemic. 11% of the parents claimed that their children were more active, which is great. And we need to find out how come that they were more active. And this is a comparative study performed by UPEA which is the European Physical Education Association, was conducted last year about physical education in Europe during COVID-19. And the main findings are presented on the screen. 74% of the national professional organizations were not involved in decision-making whether schools would be closed and whether physical education would be continued. Physical activity of children decreased during the lockdown. 15% of the respondents reported that schools were open, but physical education classes canceled. 60% of the respondents said that physical education classes were shortened. Restrictions were highest in Greece and lowest in Sweden, followed Finland. Well, we know that in Scandinavia, they try to keep their people active and their children active. And they were successful in doing so more than in Eastern Europe or in the center of Europe. So what are the conclusions that we can take with us for the future? Increased screen time does not necessarily lead to less physical activity. We know today that there are so many classes that we can take through the screen, through the opportunity with the Zoom app. If it's Pilates, yoga, dancing, and all kinds of physical activities. So here, the pandemic actually increased the opportunities for the digital era to be taught to everyone. And we know that children are so used to operate with their fingers all kind of digital games, which we name the gaming era and the e-sport. Short-term decrease of physical activity runs the risk of becoming permanent. And this is something we have to actually learn a bit more, because that is what is so risky. If you once stop practicing, if you are getting used to be inactive, to get you back on track, to get you back to be physically active is not an easy task. It's quite difficult. That is, by the way, why overweight people, right? They always go on a diet on the one hand, and then they start practicing, and then they stop. And then it is so difficult for them to renew the activity, to renew to be physically active. And that's why they always lose weight and gain weight, lose weight and gain weight. And it's not easy for them to maintain their physical activity. So once the children and the youth have stopped to be physically active, it might be difficult to get them back to be active. Physical activity and sport should be promoted at home and in the neighborhood to avoid the increase of non-communicable diseases. And we know that non-communicable diseases are causing a very high percentage of death globally. Sitting activities need to be reduced. Whenever we have an opportunity, we should stand up. I was considering delivering this presentation while I'm standing, but since I didn't practice it enough, I decided this time still to be seated. But I can tell you that my next webinars, my next Zoom presentation are going to be when I am standing. If organized sport at clubs is not allowed, but outdoor physical activity possible, it should be explored as of what age adolescents can do sport on their own. For example, riding bike, right? Or jogging or walking. At the same time, neighborhood play and physical activity offers need to be developed for young children. We have always to bear in mind what and how it will affect the little children, because they are the one that we want to educate to be active throughout their lifespan. The more time we devote thinking and coming up with more opportunities for the little children to be active, the more chances we all have that this generation of the younger ones will maintain their physical activity throughout their life. Sport facilities must not be turned into vaccination centers. We heard about that phenomena so many times all over. And this is not fair, right? To us, physical education teachers and coaches, we want to use our facilities for getting people to be active, for getting people to be physically involved in sport activities. And here we found ourselves out of our facilities. This has to be changed. I believe that the communities should find alternatives. Where do they want to vaccinate the population? And need for more research on how reduced participation in sport, physical education, and physical activity influences the behavior of children at school, including social behavior and ability to concentrate. I'll come to that back in a minute. How can we compensate for deficits vis-a-vis education? There can be no general answer. It is not simple, that's what I'm trying to say. It is depending on the length of the lockdown, timing of lockdown, our learning objectives, our culture, and the socioeconomic opportunities. Sometimes people would love to be active, but they don't have the means. And we have to take that into consideration. We have to make sure that the elderly and people from the lowest socioeconomic level will have the opportunities to be active. Physical prerequisites for many complex techniques are acquired at a younger age. Deficits in this regard are difficult to compensate for. Other learning objectives, for example, endurance, can still be achieved later. Some techniques, though, could be acquired through motion simulators, which exist for some sports. And we heard about golf, about riding bikes, and there are so many simulators which exist for many sports. To purchase these by families can in most cases not be expected because they don't have the financial means to buy those equipment and those simulators. Young high-performance athletes may be able to learn and train certain techniques and competences on their own. But even very experienced athletes need corrections from coaches from time to time. Demand for multidisciplinary cooperation will lead to minimized risks of infection. A Slovenian task force composed of experts in kinesiology and other sports science disciplines, environmental physiology, pedagogy, medicine, and epidemiology, developed national guidelines for physical activity under consideration of the World Health Organization recommendations. And here is the main findings of the Slovenian way. Do exercise outdoors wherever possible and perform your choice of low to moderate level of physical activity daily, either alone or with your family. Do engage in a variety of exercises in your home and with your family. Climb stairs, hop, skip, jump, and dance with children and other household members. Perform strength exercises or even active video gaming in short bursts of activity to increase heart rate, blood flow, and circulation periodically throughout the day. Some simple opportunities to be active. And I believe that in Indonesia and in all over the world, almost in every family, you can perform some of these activities. Do incorporate stretching and breathing deeply each day. Take at least 10 minutes each day to slowly move arms and legs throughout the range of motion comfortably. Between you and me, how many of us are doing it? It is so simple. I urge you, each and every one of you, take those 10 minutes a day. Move your arms and legs and try to be active. Do follow online exercise classes or post photos, videos on social media of yourself doing exercise at home, if that keeps you motivated and connected to others. In my small country, Israel, I want to share with you some of the early recent findings from returning to school. As you may have heard, we were successful in beating actually the pandemic, and life is almost back to normal in our country. We don't have to wear a mask whenever we go out, but we do have to wear the mask in closed areas, in amphitheater, in concerts, in stadiums, and so on and so forth. And children are back to school. Well, school in Israel have resumed operation, as I said, and they did before the pandemic, as they did before the pandemic. But according to the teacher's report, it turns out that they notice behavior changes among the students, among the children. They found out that there is a decline in social ability and increase in ADHD, the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So the children are back to school, but their level of attention and concentration is found by teachers as decreased versus the time before the pandemic. So the teachers are now asked to go step by step and educate the children, or actually re-educate the children, how they should sit in a class for 45 minutes each class and listen to the teacher or to any other speaker and make sure that they gain back their competences as they had before the pandemic. So what I'm trying to say is that teachers, coaches should understand that when the athletes are coming back to the clubs, or when children are back to physical education lessons in the school system, they cannot expect the children to behave as they did prior to the pandemic just overnight. It doesn't happen that way. We, the teachers, the coaches, we have to be patient. We have to understand that the children were facing lockdown for almost a year. And this did actually affect their behavior, and we have to understand and move accordingly, educate the children accordingly. And what makes our work so more difficult is the simple fact, unfortunately, that the world has stopped moving. Just few generations ago, physical activity was an integral part of daily life. In the name of progress, we have now chipped away at it so thoroughly that physical inactivity actually seems normal. In less than 2 generations, physical activity has dropped by 20% in the United Kingdom, 32% in USA, and in China, the drop is 45% in less than 1 generation. Vehicles, machine, and technology, the digital era now, do our moving for us. What we do in our leisure doesn't come close to making up for what we have lost. And the financial consequences are enormous, right? Inactivity in the United States cost $147 billion US. In China, 20 billion. In the United Kingdom, 33 billion. This is the economic cost, which is unacceptable. Can you believe what governments could do, what communities could do with so much money for the benefits of people? In Europe, 210 million people are reported to be physically inactive based on the PASS project that we have conducted with some partners financed by the European Union. And the cost of the inactivity reached already 80 billion euro every year. This is unacceptable. And the worst finding is that around 80% of policymakers are currently unaware of the situation. This is something that has to be changed, right? In a recent output that came from the World Health Organization, they have changed their recommendation from 150 minutes regular physical activity for adults throughout a week, namely half an hour a day. They recommend today 300 minutes. And from 75 minutes vigorous activity to 150 minutes vigorous activity. People should be more active. Otherwise, they will face all kinds of health issues. And because the young generation, actually those between 25 to 35, the one who are getting married, the one who are actually getting their first children, the one who are seeking for the best place to work, they are the one who are actually almost not active at all. And they will face serious health problems in years to come if this is not going to be changed. Doing some physical activity is better than doing none. Every move counts. That's the new slogan of the World Health Organization, right? Every move counts. How can we compensate for deficit? Physical education, organized sport in clubs, and self-organized physical activity partly overlapped, but follow different goals, and they cannot replace each other in the long run. Physical activity, physical education, and training in a sport club have an important social function and contribute to value education. Only face-to-face teaching and coaching by professionally qualified physical education teachers and coaches can ensure a controlled and correct learning of new techniques and competences and cannot be replaced 100% by digital media. So digital media is welcome, e-sport is welcome, gaming is welcome, but to an extent, it cannot replace physical activity. Partial learning with digital media can be helpful for physical education, teacher education, and community coach education. Sufficient opportunities for teaching, for example, how to swim and how to prevent people from drowning, because swimming is not only a sport, but a life-saving competence. Allocation of physical education must not be shortened or continued because gymnasiums are being used as additional classrooms or as vaccination centers, as I mentioned earlier. Outdoor facilities for physical education and sport should be expanded. And what else can we do? Creating alliances. My invitation for cooperation to the leadership of the World Health Organization, UNESCO, IOC, and IPC in a letter that was sent on the 7th of May 2020. And I asked them, please promote the need for more opportunities to be physically active during the pandemic and related shutdown, wherever possible, particularly outdoors, realizing social distancing. Ensure the inclusion of physical education, physical activity, and competitive sport as the post-pandemic period begins. Emphasize the importance of regular physical education when reopening schools. Several countries at this time have decided not to offer physical education, but offer academic subject to use all physical activity areas for other classes. And this is or should not be accepted. Seek to resume training of athletes on all performance levels with consideration and provision of World Health Organization guidelines. And to those of you who do not know, who are we? Well, the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education is a global network of governmental and non-governmental organizations representing sport, science, education, and medicine. Our main task is integrate research to enhance physical activity and sport, to educate for improved quality of life and health for all people through physical activity and sport, and to promote policies for active lifestyles, human performance, and good governance in physical activity and sport. And we are actually operating and we are conducting all our activities through building up a unique network of member organizations and partners, intergovernmental organizations like UNESCO or World Health Organization, sport movement, International Olympic Committee, International Paralympic Committee, and WADA. And we work across continents and countries with all kinds of research centers, universities like your prestigious university in Negeri, and many more organizations, professional organizations, sport organizations, practitioners, and the corporate sector. I thank you so much for your attention. If you need any further information, please don't hesitate to contact us or contact me. Thank you.
Billy, you still mute. Billy, you still mute.
Thank you for Dr. Uriskaver for sharing your expertise in the session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Schaefer.
Before we continue our agenda, we would like to give announcement regarding the link for attendance. Please check the link for attendance on your screen or your chat room, and certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of webinar. Once again, certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of conference. Please check the link for attendance on your screen or your chat room. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to our main program, the plenary session. This plenary session will be led by our moderator, who got his master degree from University of Taipei, Republic of China, with expertise in exercise biochemistry and sports nutrition. Currently, he is the Vice Director of Department of Sports Science, Faculty of Sports Science, Universitas Negeri Semarang. Please welcome our moderator of the day, Assistant Professor Muhammad Arif Ali, SSE MSc.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Billy Kasyana, the MC of ISMINA 2021. Let me do the share screen first. Well, welcome everyone to the first plenary session, webinar of the 5th International Conference on Sport, Health and Physical Education, ISMINA 2021. First of all, my name is Ali and I am a lecturer at Sports Science Faculty, Universitas Negeri Semarang, and I am so honored to be your moderator today. Before we begin, let me read out loud the rule for participants. Number 1, please turn on your camera and turn off your microphone. Number 2, let's respect each other by do not sleep during the webinar and wearing the appropriate clothes. Number 3, question can be asked by chat menu, and I will read it for you at the question and answer session. Number 4, the URL link of attendance and evaluation form of ISMINA 2021 for issuing the e-certificate will be given anytime during the webinar in each day, so stay tuned on Zoom and YouTube. The last, the URL link is active for only 60 minutes after the last plenary session is over. Here is our agenda for the first plenary session. So we have two invited speakers. Number 1 is Mr. Hayono Isman. He is going to talk about the strategic role of sport for all in facing the global pandemic. And our second invited speaker is Professor Koh Kuntek, and he is going to talk about the training methods and program during pandemic. Each invited speaker given only 30 minutes to do their presentation, and after all invited speakers deliver their presentation, the question and answer session is opened for 30 minutes. Our first invited speaker, Mr. Hayono Isman, he is a chairman for Sport for All Committee of Indonesia. He earned bachelor degree from STIP Abdi Negara Jakarta. His expertise is senior politician and also active in social organization, political parties, executive and legislation. And our second invited speaker, he is Professor Koh Kuntek. He earned his master degree from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and he finished his doctoral degree from University of Queensland, Australia. His expertise is coach education and development, coaching, evaluation of coach work, information, communication, and technology, pedagogy, value, and character development, and basketball. As we are stepping to our first invited speaker, let me throw two questions for all of us. Number one is how Sport for All committee dealing with the new public regulation which related to COVID-19 global pandemic. And number two is how Sport for All committee of the Republic of Indonesia support or even work together with the government to promote a sport as the way of life. Without further ado, let us welcoming our honorable invited speaker, Mr. Hayono Isman. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak Ali. How are you today?
I am very good, Mr. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Salam sehat, bugar, gembira.
Luar biasa.
Thank you, Profesor Tandio. Yang kami hormati, His Excellency, the Minister of Youth and Sport, my good friend, Bapak Zainuddin Amali. Yang kami hormati, Rektor Universitas Negeri Semarang, Bapak Hotur Rahman, beserta jajaran Sivitas Akademika, khususnya yang saya hormati dan saya banggakan, Profesor Tandio Rahayu, the Dean of Sport Science of Universitas Negeri Semarang, yang saya hormati, dear Mr. Uri Schreiber, the President of ICSSPE, fellow speakers, dear participants, sports activists, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, it is an honor for Komite Olahraga Rekreasi Masyarakat Indonesia, or the Sport for All National Committee, to be participated in this utmost important event, the 5th ISMINA webinar, organized by the University of Semarang. As we all know, that the COVID-19 in Indonesia has been gone for over 1 year, and there were no clear signs when it is going to end. Even we are concerned that this will be a more horrible second wave, although we have gone through a period of vaccination in Indonesia and all over the world. Next. I don't think that I have to go through this. Participants and sports activists are 100% familiar with this. So please, next. This is interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Survival of the fittest. Although we have not yet the result of survey, on the impact of the pandemic, but I'm almost certain that the pandemic has taught us a lesson, an important lesson, ladies and gentlemen. It is clear that the most fittest of the society is more able to fight the pandemic than the less fittest. It seems that the COVID-19 doesn't like fit people. They look for people with disease. That is the fact that we are looking today. Next, please. I think we all know about this. Next, please. Yes, I think we are all familiar about the protocol of health. Next, please. Yes, this is the 3M now, which has increased to the 5M in Indonesia. We must have to face the COVID-19. Next, please. The SARS-CoV-2 virus, viral causing respiratory disorders, pneumonia, and death. We know all this. And as mentioned earlier, with a better, strong body, immunity, the viruses causing COVID-19 can be defeated. Next, please. Ladies and gentlemen, sport activists, CORMI, or the Sport for All National Committee, comprises of 74 national sports organizations. We have in our executive board 3 commissions. The first commission is the Commission of Traditional Sports and Creative Sport. The next commission is Komisi Health and Fitness Organizations. And the third committee is the Committee of Adventure Sports and Challenge Sports. So these members within the Sport for All National Committee is the ujung tombak, is the soldiers at the front to face the pandemic. Yeah. And on this very important occasion, I would like to thank you, the Minister of Youth and Sports, which has supported in working together with CORMI Nasional to support the program of exercising the program of the national sports, utilizing the social media. At the first stage, with the support of the government, we have exposed through the social media around 30 national sports organizations. For example, like BMX, bicycle, and like line dance, pencak silat, the martial art of Indonesia. We expose what is their program, their activities through the social media. And we hope on the second stage, with the support of the government, we will introduce around 30 members to be in the social media to expose their program. In return, ladies and gentlemen, these activities promote physical activities and sport at home. Yes, we realize that we cannot go out the house, but it doesn't mean we cannot do sport activities or physical activities at home. And this is something that we learned from the pandemic, that how important is physical activities and sport, even it is done during in our houses. Regular exercises, at least 30 minutes per day, drink 2 liters of water per day, consumption of vitamins, supplements, healthy food consumption, get enough sleep, 7-8 hours per day during the pandemic. Next. Environment decrease case of COVID-19. Environment created by Sport for All in Indonesia, I think, as to my knowledge, has contributed a positive sign of decreasing the case of COVID-19 in every part of Indonesia. It's not much yet, but the support from the public, especially the government, we can do this in very short of period. For sure, we all know that we cannot depend only on vaccination. Foremost important is we must also depend on our body to create immunity to face the COVID-19. And this can only be done through physical activities and sport activities, beside other things that I mentioned before. Human behavior. Well, all over the world, we notice that people, out of scare, out of anxiety, do terrible things, not abiding by the protocol of health against COVID. These people, I can say to you today, mostly they don't do sports and they don't understand the philosophy of sports. Sport activists will not do this. Sport activities knows very well the philosophy of sports. Therefore, human behavior must be changed through a more wider base on sport education, pembudayaan olahraga di masyarakat. That is important. I noticed from the presentation by the president of ICSSPE, noted that the regulation on this is, I would say, is not enough, not to say it's not there. So we are very anxious to see in our parliament, there's been a motion not to revise, but to change the law of Indonesia number 3, 2005, Sistem Keolahragaan Nasional, National System on Sports. At the moment, the bill number 3, 2005 on National Sports System is mostly dominated by elite sports, which I don't mind. Elite sports is important for Indonesia. And we hope Indonesian elite sports can reach higher prestige in the Olympic Games, since at the moment we can only acquire 1 gold from 1 sports, which is badminton. We hope there are more than just badminton. To achieve the gold in pencaksilat, hopefully, in archery, in weightlifting. This is the sports that Indonesia has potential to reach the highest gold at the Olympic Games. So we support the elite sports. But since this is the bill on sports, it must not ignore the people's sport, or I can mention olahraga masyarakat, as the base of sports of Indonesia, which is done by the massive of the people. Yes, it's not elite, but I can say you here, I can tell to you here, even the people's sports or the sport for all, olahraga masyarakat, is also must be approached by the government to be close to sports science. This is, for example, sports science in Indonesia is largely accepted just for elite sport. Sports science is also for sport for all. It's important how sports science can educate people, the mass of people doing sports, how important that they know the science of sport so we can avoid injury, even death done by the public. So human behavior can be altered, can be changed to a better one through the law, the new law, the law number 3, 2005, which we hope can be changed to a new law that will also cover and honor the sport for all in Indonesia, also on the education, the sports in our education system. In our school, sport is less recognized. And we all know, ladies and gentlemen, stamina and endurance, fitness cannot be attained at the later age. It must be introduced at the early age from children to adolescents to build up their fitness and stamina. We cannot gain stamina, endurance in one instance. That is what's happening in Indonesia. We have the thinking that stamina and endurance, fitness can be done in a very short period through training centers. That is wrong. Stamina, endurance, fitness has to be introduced and has to be practiced at the early age. Immune system. As I mentioned before, we cannot, it is unacceptable to think that we can only depend on the vaccination. In Indonesia, there are cases that people died after the second vaccinations. It do not guarantee But I can tell you here that if we have a healthy body, a fit body, we have a great chance to face not just the pandemic, but any other disease and increase productivity because of our fitness. Reduce risky hosts. That is also the consequences of having a healthy body, should I say, soul, mind, and body, which can be done through physical activities and sport activities. The key is high immunity system through physical activities and sport activities. Next, please. Next, please. Since we don't have much time. As I mentioned before, in the Sport for All National Committee, comprised of so many national sports organizations. And actually, this coming June, Kormi Nasional will have this annual national working sessions, which we will, through the sessions, we will confirm the new organizations which will be involved in Kormi Nasional. For example, the Indonesia Off-Road Federation, the martial art Kempo Traditional, and many others new organizations are excited to join Kormi Nasional. As I mentioned before, these national sports organizations are the spearhead of sports movement in Indonesia. In this national organization, they have a product. Either it's pencaksilat, kempo, hard exercise, esports, parkour, and traditional sports. They have a particular knowledge which can be shared to the public, how to have a sports and physical exercises that done properly, correctly, measurably, regularly, and are useful to fight the COVID-19 virus. So through this important forum, important webinar, maybe I should ask the attentions, not just the government of Indonesia, but the government all over the world, to have more attentions to this national sports organization, the sport for all, not just elite sports. In Indonesia, and as it happens all over the world, to support elite sports, it's a big finance obligation by the government. We don't mind, but do not leave behind the sport for all. The finance obligation towards sport for all, it's much less than the elite sports. I can tell you for comparison, the national sports for elite sports, we call it PON, it can reach 20 trillion rupiah for a single multi-event PON. And we support that. And for National Sport for All Festival, which is done once in every 2 years, one event, it only costs, the last event, it only costs 13 billion rupiah. 13, not 30, 13 billion rupiah. Comprising of the event is participated by National Sports Organization member of CORMI and coming from every province all over Indonesia. So that is why we are planning in our next National Sport Festival, which is supposed to be this year, but because of the pandemic, we have to move that to next year in the month of June and July in the year 2022. At this event, for your information, there is a significant change in participants. The past festival, the participants is the provinces of Indonesia. This time, next year, at the National Sport Festival in Palembang, 2022, the participants will include all the regions and city all over Indonesia. Not just 34 provinces, but also include 540 regencies and cities all over Indonesia as participants. And besides that, we encourage the National Sports Organization, particularly who has international connections, like Kempo, Karate, Yoga, Tai Chi, line dance, to invite sport activities from their respective organizations from all over the world. So it's just not national, but it is also international event. In this way, we are also supporting the government program to revive the tourism industry. Since the participants is sport activists, not just from Indonesia, but from all over in this wonderful National Sport Festival of Indonesia. This event clearly not just strengthened the Indonesian people, but also the brotherhood of the world. By doing this, we will be more confident to face any radical and terrorism in the future. Because we know through sport for all, any movement of radicals, we can limit that, we can decrease that, and we can eventually decrease the potential of terrorism act in Indonesia and all over the world. So it's not a big money. The most we can look for this Sport for All program in Palembang, the most, since we add kabupaten and kota, regencies and cities, and international participants, the most is around 35 billion rupiah.
5 minutes left, sir.
Yes, thank you. And it's much less than the elite sports of 20 trillion rupiah. Yes, next. Thank you for reminding me, Pak Ali. Yes, we all know this. Yes, since the time is running. Object, do physical activities, improving the quality, empowering. This is being done at the moment by Kormi and the National Sports Organization within Kormi. Target, increasing number of society participation to do exercise regularly. Actually, we don't have the number yet. How much actually people in Indonesia is fit? Healthy, maybe, but healthy doesn't mean you are fit. But when you are fit, for certain, you are healthy. Increasing health and fitness levels on the society. Empowering the potential and strategic role of sports society. This is also important. We noted that from the president of ICSSPB, the cost of having the disease is far more greater than the cost of preventing and promotive. At the moment, the government spends 7 to 11 billion rupiah a year to take care the people who has penyakit tidak menular. Penyakit tidak menular. It's a non-transfer disease which can be avoided. For example, the penyakit tidak menular is heart disease, diabetes. It can be prevented, promoted by physical activities and sport activities by enlarging the base of olahraga masyarakat. The sport for all Indonesia has to be broadened by the support of the government. Next. Yes, we like to synchronize Ayo Olahraga, Let's Sports from the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and Gerakan Masyarakat Hidup Sehat from the Ministry of Health, the public movement of healthy life. This we like to synchronize in Kormi together with the National Sports Organization to be spread all over Indonesia. Sports society, we have 5, we call it 5M. Murah, mudah, massal, menarik manfaat. In English, simply we can say it's easy to do. It's cheap. It's not expensive. It's massive, interesting, and beneficial. That is what I like to say since the time has run out. Once again, thank you to UNNES for this wonderful program, and to the OC of the 5th ISMINA. You've done a very good job. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, our first invited speaker, Mr. Hayono Isman, for the insightful presentation about the strategic role of sport for all in facing the global pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to hear the presentation for our second invited speaker, Asok Professor Koh Kuntek, and he is going to talk about the training methods and program during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as I mentioned earlier before our second invited speaker delivered his presentation, let me throw you two questions again. One is, what are the challenges faced by athletes during the COVID-19? And second, how to create innovative training methods and what are the strategies that we could do to reach the goal. Without further ado, let us welcoming our honorable invited speaker, Asok Professor Kokuntek. The screen is yours.
Thanks for the introduction and the host. Let me just share my screen. Would you be able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just put the PowerPoint slide. Okay, so here I go. So very good morning to all of you. First, I would like to thank the host, UNNES, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. As you can see, my topic is mainly on training methods and programs during COVID-19. The content of this slide actually taken from the recent literature review. As you know, there are a lot of study done in this area, and also a collection of my own personal experience dealing with coaches from different level of representation, professional, national team, and schools. So I hope you will enjoy this presentation. So this will be my outline, very quickly, introductions, and then, highlight some of the challenges faced by athletes and coaches during this very difficult time, and also propose some of the innovative training methods and creative programs, for you to consider taking from this theory called self-determination theory, and also provide some practical strategy and example, again, drawing from our experience, and also a quick, conclusion. So as we know, the COVID-19 started more than a year ago, and it has changed, the way we live, work, and interact. So many sectors have been affected badly by this pandemic, and this includes the sport. Many big events have to be postponed or canceled, and based on the current situation and the number of infected cases worldwide, it appears that there's still no sign of situation improving, even with the ability of a vaccine. Let me just go to the next one. So on the 24th of March last year, the IOC actually announced the postponement of Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. And we know this is a very big games, in our sport calendar. And of course, this announcement actually upset many elite athletes, and it has actually affected their readiness of the games, having invested so much time in the preparation. Some of them are very frustrated, upset, and felt that there are a lot of uncertainty. Unfortunately, less than 3 months from now, from the commencement of the game, the situation in Japan does not seem to be improving. So the host has actually decided on 20th of March this year to bar international fans from entering Japan during games, with a concern over COVID-19. So again, many athletes face the decision of whether to continue to train, including the picture here. You can see, diver from Singapore. So as a sport practitioner, while we empathize with the feeling of these athletes who push themselves beyond their comfort zone at each training session, it is important to also acknowledge their frustration and find ways on how we can actually help them, motivate them to continue training. So I want to share with you the situation in Singapore schools. This is a very big event in Singapore. Every year we have about 55,000 athletes, preparing and participating in this big event, over 30 sports. So last year, because of COVID, it was cancelled. Again, it upset very many athletes. And over time, the ministry actually have improved the processes. And this year, they decided to resume the game, but in a very cautious manner. Okay, so out of 29 sports, they only allowed 12 sports to begin. And these 12 sports mainly are individual non-contact sports. So again, those allowed to participate, they were very happy. Those they are not, of course, they also, feel that they are training for nothing. There's really no motivation for them to train. So as we know, this remark highlight the notion that regardless of whether you are training for Olympic or school competition, motivation to train and training to compete are critical to athletes' performance and engagement. So to sum up quickly, I think the COVID has actually disrupted the training and routines of the athletes and coaches, and it created uncertainty of their future and career as both athletes and coaches are unsure on when the situation return back to normal, and hence this would significantly affect their motivation to train and compete. So here are some of the challenges faced by coaches and athletes. I think all of us experienced that, the time, okay, that they can train, how much time they have, as well as, you know, how much to cover, whether we are preparing the Olympic athletes or, you know, those domestic competition, whether the athletes are actually ready for this because of the lockdown, limited access to the equipment, and the space constraint because, you know, the government imposed some, you know, numbers, you know, coach athletes ratio, and needed to follow the safe measurement measure in Singapore. And also what kind of approach, you know, now we know that I think the earlier speaker talked about some of the technology advancement and benefit, but whether the coaches and athletes, they are actually get used to this kind of approach is also questionable. So these are all challenges that face. So I'll just share with you one of these article, you know, from NCAA athletes, you know, they actually found that, you know, with this COVID, you know, had a significant decrease in participation time in strength training, endurance, and mobility with a larger reduction in sport-specific activity. And it's also, you know, athletes face this limited no access to training facility, and that actually affects their preparation and development. And also reduce motivation, enjoyment, because right now, you know, with the lockdown, you know, due to small group size, there's little interaction between athletes, which is a very big component in sports. And because of all this, you know, the mental and emotional well-being were all affected. And the other thing the athletes have to cope with, you know, especially team sport, is that, you know, because of this COVID situation, even though they can, you know, resume the competition, you know, with no participant or no spectator, which again, you know, will affect how they actually compete. For coaches, I think the obvious reason is that, you know, they will find it very difficult to carry out those structured prioritization training plan, again, because of the, you know, SMM and all those, you know, restriction, and lack of in-person support and quality assurance, and lack of interaction with the athletes. You know, and that actually will, you know, actually affect the way they handle things and the way they plan their programs. And now, because they also need to have, you know, broaden their coaching skill set, because they need to deal with different group of people under this kind of, you know, situation. So as we know, you know, in any situation, the coaches, they are all playing an important role. Despite all these, you know, challenges, I think we need to, you know, find ways to motivate athletes, you know, in order to get them to continue to work. One key solution to the challenge for coaches to take lead in initiating changes in the training methods and programs. And the coaches must be able or willing to accept that COVID-19 will be here to stay, and must be willing to innovate and be creative in the training programs and method. As you can see, quote from here, the high performance coach, that, you know, we need to find ways to work within the constraint and engage athletes to stay positive so that they can keep working for the future. So now let me just share with you, you know, some of the theoretical, you know, framework, you know, that we think will, you know, help to solve this situation. So drawing from the work, you know, from this motivation model, I think to maintain the coach-athlete relationship is the key to, you know, solve most of the problem currently. And this framework is nothing new, you know, it has been there, you know, early 2000. And personally, I've tried before and works very well for me. So from this framework itself, we can clearly see that, you know, the coach, you are actually playing a very important role. The way you structure, you know, the programs, the way you actually deal with the athletes, you know, the kind of giving them the kind of support, and also, you know, how your involvement will actually affect their motivation eventually. So based on DC and Ryan, okay, to get athletes to be self-motivated, okay, so there's this theory called self-determination theory. And basically they are saying that, to get people to be motivated to continue to do what they are doing, we need to fulfill the 3 needs, which are first, competent, okay, getting them to be able to feel effective of what they are actually doing, and autonomy, okay, giving them the choice, endorsing their own behavior, and lastly is called relatedness, feel connected to others and sense of belonging. And we know because of this COVID, a lot of restriction actually affecting a lot of athletes' motivation. So for example, needs for competent, with the decrease of training, training frequency, the competent level may be affected. And with the lockdown, because they are unable to actually, discuss more with the coach, the autonomy needs may be also affected. And lastly, relatedness, clearly, okay, little interaction with their peers during training because of the restriction of numbers, that will actually also affect their motivation. So before I offer some solution, this is the latest news from the Business Time. Singapore now actually ranked safest place to be in COVID-19 pandemic, overtaking New Zealand. And the reason as follow. I think because we are very safe measurement in place involving multi-government agency, and we have full cooperation and compliance from people in all sectors, including the sports. And I think we believe that we need to adhere to this safe to train and compete principle. So let me just give you some of the example how we actually carry out, the training under this safe training, safe competing philosophy. So in the case of basketball here, you can see that, the government restriction now is 8 packs per group, and then there's this 1 to 2 meter apart, designated activity area, and designated equipment. Okay, no physical contact, no intermingle between groups. Every time you need to sanitize equipment after lesson. So as a coach, I think right now, and athletes have been adjusting well, from 5% per group a couple of months ago. Now we actually increased the group size because I think the community cases has actually gone down. And the coach cannot be moving around, supervising, many groups of athletes. So that itself actually poses a lot of restriction, but I think over time people get used to it, people adhere to it, and then that's how we control the situation. In terms of the competitive sports and also competition, I think initially we were allowed to start, but without spectator. And as reason as beginning of this year, we started hosting international event. This is the Singapore, tennis open, where they allow 250 spectators, all need to go through, swab test and follow this SMM strict protocol. So I think this is important while we're talking about strategy training, athletes wanting to go back, to normal things. We don't want to be a situation whereby, we start going back to normal and the cases become more, and in the end, the government had to shut down and force everything back to lockdown again. As you can see, India is having a big problem now. Japan is also a big problem now. So I think we need to be very careful while talking about strategy, about all these training methods. So first thing is really to revisit goals. 1 year ago, okay, everything was normal. You set up the goal. This is how you're going to prepare. But now, because of COVID, things actually change. So it's important for coach to go back to the basic, to look at things that have been planned, and also have a very fair discussion with the athletes, and see whether those goals are still achievable. If not, then you need to adjust it, because ultimately this goal will then help to enhance their competence level and also motivate them to meet their competent needs. And at the same time, we also want to ensure that you're giving them the autonomy to also give some feedback to the coaches, so that together you can actually get some buy-in and you can achieve the goal eventually. And the next one is by revisiting the goal, it also actually help to avoid injury. As you can see here, some of the athletes, highly motivated athletes, sometimes they are so hungry for success, and they are so eager to return to physical shape following the circuit breaker. Injury may happen due to this overtraining because physically they may not be ready for that. And in the case here, you can see at Singapore, para cyclists, Steve T, actually experienced a hamstring strain and subsequently a slip disc during training. So 2 major injury, and that actually cost a lot in terms of the way he can continue his training. So bear in mind, okay, revisiting the goal, so here are some of the innovative training methods that we can consider. So here is based on our interaction with one of the athletics coach. I think he suggested keep everything simple, going back to the basic, easy accessible, body weight exercise and thumb based run. This again, to ensure the athletes can cope and meet the goal so that they feel competent in doing what they're actually doing. And aside from just training technical, okay, I think the coach also need to pay attention to their mode and also the environment. I think as shared with you the model early on. So besides from training, have some chit-chat session, so that athletes are more open to talk to you and some of the problems they encounter so that you can actually help them to improve. I think we also need to find out or know, what kind of equipment available for athletes at home. So, and to help them to improvise and yet able to continue the kind of training for maintenance. So here, these are 2, athletes from Singapore. One is just carry, a rice pack, to build the upper body strength. And the other one is the basketballer, so that these exercises are all decided by them and plus the equipment. So they were given the autonomy to decide and customize the exercises to meet the needs. So the other area we need to pay attention to is, of course, use of technology. As COVID actually taught us, technology can actually help us to solve a lot of problems. And here are some of the consideration, okay, based on, again, our work. Online, there's one way, you load everything up for athletes to go and read or to go and view. And when they are staying home, what are the things you can do? We can do some team practice, game concept using Zoom, like what we're doing now, and have some breakout, room discussion so that they can interact, and then promote the relatedness, and also face-to-face, when they come back to you. So because we know that the COVID restrict the number of training hours that we have, and also the number of athletes that we have. So some of the content that you have to cover in the past, in the face-to-face situation, you need to then use the online to do that, so that when the face-to-face, you can then, build on the cognitive aspect, so then they can, still be able to learn those things that you actually plan for them. So just to pay attention when you're using online, again, this is a very, based on our work and some evidence that we found from the literature, watching videos, and make sure you are around there and not just giving them view video and there's no follow-up, then there's no impact. And at the same time, Zoom will be a very good platform, breakout rooms, get them to discuss the skill they actually observe and they perform, they can talk about it. They actually promote, again, relatedness, and also have them, to pay attention to certain skills so that they can become competent subsequently. Free learning, okay, uploading some of the information before, so that it's, during lesson, during training, you can have more time to let them go hands-on, rather than you keep on talking, you actually take out a lot of time. And then after a session, you can get them to discuss and reflect. So the other way of using the technology, okay, this is just for example from the athletic coach. Okay, some of the devices that you can use to track their performance. Okay, so here you have, Map My Run and Strava. Okay, so that the athletes can go in, lock in their time, and then they can decide, how they want to do it, and then they can discuss among themselves. So this slide help to summarize all those things that we talk about how technology can be used. So videos for demonstration, so that can actually help to promote competence. and encourage athletes to practice skill and fitness at home. Sometimes can just use some of the videos to complement, give them the autonomy to decide. And so using Zoom, sometimes to check and also build relationship to promote relatedness. We're going to move on to some of the creative programs that can be considered during this period. So these are the key consideration when you are, trying to plan the creative program drawing from the literature. First, we need to anticipate, the fitness level of the athletes, and at the skill level because of this loss of time and preparation during pandemic. And we also need to be aware about the athletes' living condition and what kind of equipment they actually make available to them so that they can do something to what extent at home, home-based learning or training. And we need to use appropriate intensity, because everyone, start at different time and they are at different rate, so we need to prescribe the activity appropriately, but at the same time, use some of the measure or tools or devices to check, make sure they are working at that kind of intensity to prevent injury. Resistance training, aerobics exercises, and aerobics, these are nothing new. But pay attention to, because right now is during COVID situation, the focus should really on the maintenance of the athletes, and you increase the load progressively. Because as I say, unless the sport allow you to train full time, 6 times a week, and then you have 2 or 3 sessions, there's no issue. But if your training frequency has actually reduced, this will be a very important consideration to prevent any serious injury. So the program should actually work in this to cover this different aspect. This is again drawing my own work. First, I think if your sport is individual, that is very simple. You work on your fitness, conditioning, your skill. Less impact on you. But if your sport is from the team sports, that's where you need to think about how I can then, from individual progress to small group, small team, and then get them to work together. Bear in mind, in this, following this safe measure, management measure. And within the training itself, this is nothing new. You need to create some form of competition and the application for the athletes, especially in team sports, is very, very critical. And this point highlighted early on because athletes actually looking forward to that kind of, application and competitiveness. And we know because of COVID, not many NSA or sport federation are organizing competition because the government doesn't allow, but athletes need competition to stay motivated. So we need to then create some internal competition for athletes to compete so that they can be then motivated to continue to train. And if given opportunity, if your situation allow, then you look for competition external, so that they can be motivated. So again, this is another example here, as I shared with you early on from 5%, previously for basketball, we need to then think about how we can organize 2 versus 2 game competitive, for athletes to compete. And now we are actually on the 8, then we can actually go higher. But you know, the sport itself, the regular size is 5 versus 5. So how you train, it become very, very challenging because you cannot train 5 versus 5. So the coach then have to think about, maybe I have 5 attacker, 3 defender to do this kind of simulation. It's not ideal, but this is the only time way we can do. So the competition aspect I mentioned important because they actually help to encourage people to continue to train, at the same time develop a greater awareness of their strengths and weaknesses, and also they can benchmark with the best athletes. So this is just one of the example that how we actually created these internal games for our player, for our national team. This in this case is 3 versus 3, even though the government allow us to do 4 versus 4 now. So this is just one way so that the athletes feel good about it rather than demotivated. In Singapore, we have this Singapore Disability Sports Council. They also started creatively having this time trial, okay, for the athletes to promote competence and also autonomy, okay, for them to review their performance. And this is earlier phase, you know, that we have Sport SG, the government body, have organized these 2 versus 2 national games under the restriction of 5 players, you know, maximum per half court. So this is just one, it just came in 2 or 3 days ago. We have 2 athletes just qualified for Tokyo Olympics. Remember, just few days ago, okay? So the motivation is so important because I mentioned to you early on, okay, there are a lot of uncertainty, people training, you know, and without knowing whether they can go for Tokyo game or not. But these athletes clearly have the very clear intrinsic motivation to train, to compete, and to qualify. Whether they are able to really take part in the game physically, eventually, that is a secondary to them. And what makes this happen is really about the coaches, the peers, and the athletes. They actually employ some of the strategy that we talk about it, in particular, the self-determination theory, the 3 needs, okay, that actually help them to stay determined and also motivated to continue to train. So this will be my 2 final slides. Okay, one is, you know, we need to be mindful about the motivation of the athletes, and we then have to create that kind of you know, environment so that they can still be engaged to train and to compete. And, you know, I offer this theoretical framework, you know, to promote competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Not difficult to do. You just have to make sure that we always think about this, and these 3 needs will determine the motivation level by athletes, you know, to train hard and to compete hard, and eventually they may actually win something for the country. So I actually provided some strategy. Okay, so these are the 3 strategy, how you should actually review the goals, and also, you know, some of the training method need to be innovative and creative. Last slide, okay. During this difficult time, I think aside from just getting them to train to become better, we need to pay attention also to their, you know, psychosocial as well as their well-being. Okay, so keeping touch with the athletes, you know, trying to find out how they are doing aside from training. I think that is, to me, is very, very important. Planning for the long term, okay, again, the policy from the government keep on changing. I think for us as a coach, a sport administrator, practitioner, we need to keep on evolving, innovating, so that we can keep on, you know, keep the training going, you know, and at the same time prepare the athletes to the best of their ability. More importantly, I think as a coach or athletes, you know, we need to start changing people's attitude and the habit in sports participation and preparation. And COVID actually, you know, demonstrated how innovative coaches and sport administrators they are, and we need to continue to do that. Okay, for example, right now, even though you are allowed to go back to face-to-face training, okay, we need to seriously think about how we can use technology to complement some of the things, so that when there's a lockdown, you know, athletes and coaches, they already get used to this kind of training, and the training will not be affected that much. And because COVID is new, okay, everyone is trying to train or try out new things. So trial and error is the new norm. So it's okay to make mistakes, but we need to continue to think about ways to solve the situation and do things better. And lastly is to really share all those good practices. Yes, I'm trying to share with you what I know from the literature and things that we have been trying here, whether at the federation, with some of the professional athletes that we are working with, you know, so that we can become better. So with that, I want to thank you for your, you know, attention. Terima kasih.
You're welcome, and terima kasih kembali Asok Profesor Kokuntek. And ladies and gentlemen, now we are stepping into the question and answer sessions. As I mentioned earlier, to ask your questions, you can mention your name and then followed by your institution and to whom your questions are addressed for, and your question. And I am going to read it for you to our invited speaker. Based on the chat column, we do not have the question yet. However, me personally, I have two questions. One addresses to Mr. Hayono Isman, and second to Mr. Kokuntek. First question, Mr. Hayono Isman, it is related to the second questions that I mentioned before your presentation. How Sport for All Committee of the Republic of Indonesia support or even work together with the government to promote a sport as the way of life. And during your presentation, you actually answer the questions by it can be achieved or it can be solved by synchronization, integration, and collaborations program such as Ayo Olahraga and Germas program, also Indonesia Bugar. My question, rather than those programs you mentioned on your presentation, do the Kormi has a new program which is related to COVID-19 pandemic? Because as we know that COVID-19 changed almost like all the life aspect.
Thank you, Bali.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I cannot emphasize more on the importance to revise the law number 3, 2005. Not just revise, maybe change it to accommodate the sport for all and sport in education. I think this is the number one, because as you know, in Indonesia, we heavily dependent on the law, especially this connecting to the sport, not just the central government, also the government on province, regency, and city level. They must have guides from the law, which at the moment dominated by elite sports, which again, I don't mind. That's important. But do not neglect the importance of sport for all and sport in our education system. That's number one. Number two, yes, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have a collaboration between the Ministry of Youth and Sport and Kormi Nasional to include the national sports organizations, especially the ones who in the Kormi Nasional berhimpun. They are berhimpun itu mereka they joined Kormi as member and to promote their product, because Kormi has no product, has no sport product, has no sport product whatever. We are Wadah Berhimpun, the place for national sports organization together in one spirit to promote sport for the massive. And to promote their product, we utilize the social media, and it's doing well, but it's not enough. Therefore, I think we should broaden the frequency of that important event. And thirdly, Pak Ali, you also realize that to enhance the national sport organization is that they must have a good number of coaches and instructors. At the moment, Indonesia has a limited coaches and instructors in sport for all, very limited. And we know that to spread the spirit of sport, it has to be done through instructors and coaches. So we need to create more of them. And this is where I hope the government support will come through financial support. Because if you ask the national organization to do that, maybe they can do per year 10 or 15 coaches or instructors. But more than that, to create more coaches and instructors, you must have the support of the government. Thank you, Pak Ali.
You're welcome, Mr. Hayono. However, I have a further question to you. Don't you mind if I say that Kormi, or Sport for All in Indonesia, is actually the umbrella organization which is like accommodate the subcommittee at regency level. And I think what you mentioned the last about the certified instructor, probably, right? That is the right term.
Yes.
And I think if we take a look on the field, on the general conditions, that we actually have like many sport practitioners. However, they are not certified yet. Am I right, Mister?
Yes, I would say so, Pak Ali, because we know all too well, in this era of democratization and openness, transparency. We need a strong society. Actually, we don't need a strong government. We need a strong society, but government yang berwibawa. Jadi,
Well, I will call it that. What you mean, strong society? It's like a good ecosystem, which is one each other can support. Then the main goal can be reached, can be realized.
Yes, this is where university like UNNES comes in. Because without the support of university, it is more difficult to persuade the government how important it is. Strong society can be achieved through sport for all. No question about that. But the support from the government is not enough. It's not enough. So we need a strong society with government yang berwibawa. Itu apa Pak Ali ya? Berwibawa, pemerintah yang berwibawa. Strong society with not strong government. The word I think should be let's say wibawa itu
wise.
I don't get the Pak Ali, but if you can get me, we need strong society dan pemerintah yang berwibawa. Ya bahasa Inggrisnya tolong dicari, nanti saya lagi nggak ingat itu.
Oke,
pemerintah yang berwibawa, masyarakat yang kuat.
Yeah, so I will say that the wise government running the good governance. So anytime they are making the new policy, the policy based on all needs, like can accommodate all the needs, everything, even both elite sport or sport for all.
Yes, to strengthen the society.
To strengthen
because
the society.
Pak Ali, I like to differentiate. Elite sport mostly are spectator sport. If you notice, it's spectator sport. When I mention spectator sport, it doesn't mean the spectator is fit. Maybe most of them doesn't do sport. They just see spectator sport as an entertainment. But sport for all is where the society, the people do actually sport. That is why I call sport activists, because they are not just athletes. In our sport for all, we don't call it athletes. We call it pegiat olahraga or sport activists. Sport activist is an athlete. Also as a pegiat is pegiat itu pengurus dan pembina, merangkap. Jadi saya ini I'm the executive of Sport for All, but also I'm the athlete of Sport for All. So you see what I mean? So spectator sport doesn't guarantee you will have a healthy and fit society. But Sport for All, the door is open to make the society healthy, fit, and happy.
Exactly.
That is why I call Salam Sehat, Bugar Gembira.
Exactly, Mr. I do agree with you. Yeah, like because the concept of elite sport is actually like for the achievement and for the competitive sport, and sport for all is for everybody, for the kids, even for the elderly. And this is we've got a new question from Mr. Sahri. He is lecturer from Sports Science Faculty, UNNES, Universitas Negeri Semarang. His question is addressed to you, Mr. Hayono. The question is, he heard many sports from you, such as yoga, tai chi, etc. What do you think about hiking, camping, or nearby sports?
That is in the category of sport for all. Ya, jadi hiking, ya, we call it wisata ala olahraga alam, olahraga bahari, ya, water sports, natural sports. It's within the sport for all domain. So that is important, because this is one of I just like to explain that at one stroke, sport of all touches many issues. One of the issues is environmental issues. Sport for all, I can tell you that they can contribute in conserving the forest, in having clean city, and having a river to be more clean, because we are connected to that. So sport for all is not just for health and fitness, it's more than that. One stroke touching many issues.
Thank you so much for the answer, Mr. And I also would like to thanks to I have no clue. She is or he is Esterlie Awotio. So what you mean the pemerintah yang dihormati? He advises us the respected government. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Hayono. And the second questions from me to our second invited speaker, Asok Professor Koh Kuntek. Personally, I do like your presentation. It was so insightful as well, because you are talking about the innovative training program, especially for the elite athlete. However, Doctor, is it also related, or it can be applied to normal population, non-athlete, but they are trained one? Thank you.
So thanks for that question. Definitely, I think it can actually cut across to I think earlier on the speaker talked about if you have the sports for all, and because of pandemic, it got affected. And people right now also doing exercises at home, right? So it's about paying attention to the intensity, how hard you should be working on, checking, and then but they need to have some motivation to exercise. I'm not so sure how the situation in Indonesia. In Singapore right now, I can tell you, because of this government avocation of working from home more, the instructor, gym instructor, yoga instructor, they are having good business. They are conducting a lot of online, coaching session. And those people working from home, they can just do their workout at home anytime. But again, going back to why are they doing that? So for adult, yes, they may see the motivation to exercise because if they want to be healthy. But for children, sometimes, especially they are not that matured, someone has to then guide them to see the need to exercise, especially talk about sports for all. Why should I exercise? The kids may not know. So as a parent or teachers or whoever, that's where again the motivation, getting them to work. Not so much of helping them to see the health aspect, because some children may see the health aspect is too far away, but really why are you doing this? By doing so, how can then get them to be more interested. So a typical example, running, nobody want to do, right? But when you get them to play, a lot of people like to play. So playing and running, they are still exercising. You are working on the same intensity. You can still, get that kind of, benefit outcome by doing, being active.
Yep. And further questions, Doctor. So you mentioned about the use of technology. And if we talk about the normal population, they are not athlete. And what are your tips for them to related the use of technology, and what kind of improvise the equipment that they can do to keep exercising, to keep fit?
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks for the question again. I think personally, I've tried a few rounds. For example, I'm getting the kids to play basketball. Maybe give me a second. So this was the online. Again, I did before. This is a newspaper rep. Okay, so when I want to do shooting, for example, at home, the kids, and I know they don't have ball at home, I do online things, and then they'll look at what they have, so they can just do something, use a paper, wrap around, and then they just do the movement while I'm teaching the skill. So cognitively and psychomotorically, they are actually working, on that skill itself, but it's not using the actual equipment. So then, maybe, after the next session, when I'm doing the face-to-face, I don't need to invest the same amount of time to explain, demonstrate, because it's actually covered online now. So when you come to me, it's go into action. Action, you already done it. Now I give you the actual ball. Okay, I give you the actual activity to do it. So in short, I think, the Zoom or the online things, we can really get them to still get them work on the psychomotor with improvised whatever things you can find at home. Okay, then when they come to you doing the face-to-face, that's where you can go more in depth, whether you talk about the skill or whatever thing they are doing. And that's where I say it's important, because you do not have the same amount of time, especially sports for all. You don't train, like the elite train full time, right? So, but that doesn't mean I cannot cover the amount of skill or the things I want to cover. But instead of face-to-face now, I now actually break them into probably 40, 60, 30, 70, up to you. 30, 40% online, you do it with me. I show, I supervise, I give you feedback. When you come to me, then, the face-to-face, you work into the actual context using the equipment, the facility, you can pick up quickly. Okay, so I think this is that kind of adjustment we need to make. Get the athletes. That's why my conclusion slide is very important for all of us to pay attention to, because we need to start changing. We need to convince the athletes that, okay, those people are non-competitive, that you can still learn something, okay, but the way we learn has to change because the situation has changed. Okay, so I hope I've answered your questions.
Yeah, exactly. You answer my questions, and to be honest, I am amazed that you show me like you wrap the newspaper and use it as the sub equipment, probably the ball, right? And well, I will say that not only the things that you mentioned, so everybody how to say that, like response to the changes due to the COVID. So it pushed us to be more creative. If we are not creative, so that idea to squeeze the newspaper as a sub equipment, it will never happen, right?
So that's why I think that's very important. Some athletes, depending on the age of the athletes they're actually dealing with, you will say, children 6 or 7 years old, they will not have how this, but I think it's important for us to then to ask the kids, so what can you find at home? Some will say, I have a tennis ball, I don't have equipment. And then as a coach, do you have this? Do you have that, or where you can actually get access to this kind of modified, thing so that they will not lose out from learning, and participating the activity from you. So we cannot leave everything to school just at initial stage in Singapore. Every government say, home-based learning. Everybody learn at home. Then, then the teacher, the coaches start teaching all those actual things that they can't find at home. So how to do it? So in the end, people don't have the equipment. They off task. They are not following. They are not motivated because they cannot participate in the activity. So it's important as a coach, or practitioner. That's why I think the slide I mentioned earlier on, before the programming part, you need to take care of few things. One is about what kind of equipment condition that they have at home you want to do online. Okay, I think that's a very important thing, so that they can engage, then the motivation will still be, be there, even though it's online.
Yeah. Well, okay, Miss.
Can I have a question for Professor Kuntek?
Sure, Mister. Please.
Yes. Firstly, thank you for your presentation, Professor.
Thank you.
It's interesting to know how Singapore is doing in to keep the people of Singapore healthy. The question is, do you have a sport for all in Singapore? Sport for all organization? The reason I ask this, because there is a thinking in Indonesia. We like to broaden the activity sport for all in Southeast Asia. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thanks. We have, I think Sports for All, we have this division, okay, under Sport Council, previously, up to early 20s where we start changing the name. But basically, now it's all under Sport Singapore. So within the organization of Sport Singapore, there are different divisions. So one is about, like what you mentioned, is promoting activity or health through sports. Okay. So how it actually function right now is we don't actually segment it. So this is one of the focus mandate by the organization. And then the organization then have to work with National Sport Federation. That's one. So the federation has to take care of elite sports as well as those recreation sports for those they're just playing for fun. They have, however, set up academy. Sport academy. So the sport academy is mainly looking at those people who like the sports, but they are not good enough to represent the national team or the youth team. Then they provide that kind of activity programs for them. And this the work of this academy usually last time was taken care by the National Federation. Now I think the National Federation will pay more attention to elite sport preparation, while the academy will look after those sports for all, like I mentioned, but they are supposed to be connected because ultimately your sports for all will filter small percentage of athletes to the elite sports. So that's a pipeline we're talking about.
Yeah, I appreciate it if you have the time to connect me with the sport academy in Singapore, so we can have discussion about that. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. No issue. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much also for the question, Mr. Hayuno. Well, and also thank you again to Mr. Hayuno and Professor Kuntek for your answer. And we do not have the question anymore, even from me and also on the chat column. So let me deliver the conclusions. So regarding the target Indonesia Bugar Program 2020 to 2045, very good ecosystem or strong collaboration among the society and supported by government is the key to improve the overall health, even fitness status in Indonesia, and to create innovative program. There are some factors that we must to consider and to do it. One is focus on physical and mental well-being of the athlete, and second is planning for the long term or by using the blended approach, and third, change coaches and athlete attitude and habit in sport, And for the trial and errors, the new norm. And then the last is sharing of idea and collaborations with other coaches. I would like to say thank you so much for all the attention that audience gave to us. And I hope that two presentation from our honorable speakers can give you insightful messages and you can take something for the next time. Well, thank you so much. And let's give our invited speaker thumbs up. And thank you so much again. And I'm giving back to our MC, Mr. Billy Kasiana. The screen is yours. The plenary session. Once again, thank you for Mr. Muhammad Arif Ali for lead the plenary session. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue our agenda, we would like to give the announcement regarding the attendance. Please check the link for attendance on your screen or your chat room, and certificate will be given to participants who attend the first and second day of webinar. Coming up to the last session, we are going to have parallel session. For those who join the parallel session, please be noted that our session will be start at 12:30 p.m. After break, you may proceed to your presentation room through the link that has been shared before into your WhatsApp or email. Once again, after the break, you may proceed to your presentation room through the link that has been shared before into your WhatsApp or email. And the session will be start at 12:30 p.m. Thank you very much, and we are looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow for our second day. This is the end of our first day on the 5th International Conference on Sport, Health, and Physical Education 2021. Good afternoon, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And see you tomorrow, everybody.
Yeah.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you may leave this room and please you proceed to the presentation room through the link that has been shared on your screen or on your WhatsApp or your email. And you have to proceed before 12:30 because we will start the session at 12:30 p.m.
you.